So today is a special day. Perhaps not as cool as next year will be, but still. Today is Oblivion's 14th anniversary. It was released all the way back in 2006, and that game, it changed my life. It is by far my most favorite game of all time. Nothing even comes close. It made me fall in love with what a game could be. It's even what made me want to become a game designer. In a way, it also ruined me though. No game before or since has ever come close to what that game is. Because of Oblivion, it's hard for me to even go back and appreciate what Morrowind was, just because of how much of a jump in technology it was between those two games. Morrowind is a great game, don't get me wrong, but before Oblivion it was one of my favorites, but now it just feels empty if I try to go back and play it. It's also the same thing with Skyrim, unfortunately. Skyrim is an absolute disaster compared to Oblivion. Sure, the graphics are better, I guess, but they're cold and dead and desaturated. Everything about that game is depressing. Whereas Oblivion is light and colorful, and everything that a fantasy game should be. That's not saying that Oblivion is perfect, because obviously it's not. I mean, look at these faces. They're an absolute disaster. But aside from that, the game is immaculate in nailing a feeling. That feeling being that you are in a fantasy world and you can do anything. Even the towns somehow feel more alive in Oblivion than they do in Skyrim. Bethesda had 5 years to make the AI better, and somehow they made it worse. I remember watching the Making of Oblivion video, and hearing them talk about how the AI was so revolutionary that they had to scale it back before release, because it was just too good. The characters, for instance, would go around and buy up all the stuff from the shops, so the player wouldn't be able to. That isn't even a thing in games today. And while there are obviously problems with that, it would certainly make the world feel more real. The Skyrim AI, on the other hand, is an absolute joke. All the NPCs are on rails, basically, the entire game. Sure, it allows you to have greater precision of what the character is actually doing, and allow for really good scripted events, like when the player enters Riverwood.
I saw a dragon.
What? What is it now, Mother?
It was as big as the mountain and black as night. It flew right over the barrel.
Dragons now, is it? Please, Mother. If you keep on like this, everyone in town will think you're crazy. And I've got better things to do than listen to more of your fantasies.
Or when the player first goes to Solitude and sees the beheading. Or when the player enters Markarth for the first time and you see the assassin. But there's a reason you don't see these kind of sequences in Skyrim often. They're not sustainable for a game the size of Skyrim, built with the team the size of Bethesda. It's just not. You need a level of randomization that only Oblivion had. Sure, it was mostly just nonsense conversations in between NPCs, but it felt much more alive than Nazim telling you for the 100th time,
Do you get to the Cloud District very often? Oh, what am I saying? Of course you don't.
the NPCs in Skyrim are boring and dead. I've played through Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, all hundreds of hours each. But Skyrim has no memorable characters, or at least very few, unless they're annoying, or just strange. I didn't think this was going to be me just hating on Skyrim. That was a future video idea, because I really despise it. But hell, I'll keep going. Dragons are stupid and annoying and boring. They add nothing to the game. Fighting a dragon in Skyrim is no different than fighting a cliff racer in Morrowind or an imp in Oblivion. Hell, in my opinion, dragons are the worst thing to ever happen to fantasy writing. It's like every hack that wants to make something, whether it be a movie or a game or a book or anything with a medieval setting, thinks that it has to have dragons. I know that's like blasphemy to nerds everywhere, but I think it's true. They add nothing. They aren't even fun to fight in Skyrim. Just pelt them with arrows or magic and they go down. I could keep this video going, but I'll leave the rest of my complaints about Skyrim, compared to Oblivion, for another video. This should be happy. Oblivion is my favorite game. So happy anniversary, Oblivion. I hope the next Elder Scrolls game is just like you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.